All right, it's a little bit late, but we have NewsBites now to do. This is the portion of AM Ocala Live during which Robin and I read the news. We keep our opinions to ourselves. We refrain from attempting to be entertaining. We don't take phone calls, and we will read only a small part of each story. We do it that way so you get the gist of the story, and then we move on to the next one. Now, if the story is interesting to you, you'll have the information you need to go to the website of the news agency that we're quoting from. So we'll do that, and then you'll know the whole story. I'm trying to do two things at once here. All right. The other thing is, as I mentioned, we don't offer commentary, but sometimes stories have a political slant to them, one direction or the other. So we try to balance the level of playing field, I should say, simply by getting news stories from different agencies like the New York Post, the Washington Post, the New York Times, Huffington Post, Newsmax. I'm trying to think of all the ones we use.
BBC, The Guardian.
Thank you. So, all right, here we go. You'll be able to hear between 25 and 30 stories in this broadcast. Stop. Oh, my gosh, too many buttons. Okay. So you'll be able to hear a lot of news. And then you can get on with your own life and live your own news. All right, let me start with this one. This one is from USA Today. A deadly wildfire continues to roar through Northern California as high winds and hot temperatures complicate efforts to fight the blaze. At least 6 people are dead. Hundreds of homes have been destroyed, and more than 30,000 residents have been evacuated. The fire is near Redding, California, along the Sacramento River, 170 miles north of the state capital and 120 miles south of the Oregon state line. But it's only one of many blazes cropping up throughout the state. Another wildfire has burned 80 square miles near Yosemite National Park.
It's been 5 years since Cody Wilson fired the first 3D printed gun. This week, the self-described anarchist plans to release his blueprint to the world on the internet, allowing anyone with access to a 3D printer to create their own ghost guns firearms that are untraceable, unregulated, and unregistered. Last week, 3 organizations, the Brady Center to Prevent Gun Violence, Every Town for Gun Safety, and Giffords Law Center to Prevent Gun Violence, joined together in a last-minute effort to block the Trump administration from allowing Americans the ability to access the instructions. The coalition sent a letter to a federal judge in Texas on July 24th, but their bid was dismissed this past Friday, reported by PBS.
From the Florida News Network, today is the deadline for Floridians to register to vote and pick political affiliations for next month's primary election. More than 12 million people are already registered to vote for the August 28th primary election, which will be crucial in shaping November's election ballot. Term limits mean some of the state's top positions are up for grabs, including governor, agriculture commissioner, attorney general, and chief financial officer. Florida is a closed primary state, meaning individuals must be a registered member of a party to vote in that party's races. There are some nonpartisan elements and candidates in the election as well.
Does your vacation rental have hidden cameras? It's firmly against Airbnb's and other rental companies' policies, but that does not stop some hosts from putting hidden, undisclosed cameras in their rentals. Hosts have the right to use surveillance devices to protect their property, provided they are used in common areas and are clearly disclosed in their listing. Unfortunately, there are occasional hosts who do not play by the rules, reported by CNET.
From Spectrum News 13, a man was found dead Saturday afternoon after a shooting in Summerfield, according to the Marion County Sheriff's Office. Deputies responded to a call just before 1 p.m. in reference to a shooting in the area of Southeast 145th Street. When they arrived, deputies found a man dead at the property. The identity of the man has not yet been released. Marion County Sheriff's Office major crimes detectives are investigating the incident.
U.S. senators from New England want to grant the lobster another national day of celebration. They've introduced a resolution to again designate September 25th as National Lobster Day to honor the economic, historic, cultural, and culinary contributions of lobsters. The resolution is being led by Maine U.S. Senators Angus King and Susan Collins, who say it honors not only the lobsters, but also the people who harvest, ship, and cook them. Rhode Island U.S. Senator Jack Reed says he expects the full Senate to again unanimously approve it as a fun, tasty way to honor lobsters lobstermen and their catch. Maine led the nation in American lobster landings in 2016 with 132 million pounds, valued at nearly $540 million, followed by Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Rhode Island, reported by the Associated Press.
From Spectrum News 13, firefighters in South Florida rescued 3 baby sea turtles that had been trapped in a storm drain. News outlets report that a Good Samaritan noticed the newly hatched sea turtles Saturday evening in the Deerfield Beach graded storm drain across the street from the shore. Broward County Sheriff's Office firefighters collected the 3 wayward hatchlings in a bucket and returned them to the ocean. In a statement, Battalion Chief and Public Information Officer Michael B. Kane said the firefighters wish the hatchlings a safe, long, and healthy life.
In May, the United States pulled out of a 2015 deal between world powers and Tehran, under which international sanctions were lifted in return for curbs on its nuclear program. Washington decided to reimpose sanctions upon its withdrawal, accusing it of posing a security threat. It has told countries they must halt imports of Iranian oil from November the 4th or face U.S. financial measures, reported by Reuters.
From Fox News, Molly Tibbetts, the 20-year-old University of Iowa student who vanished earlier this month after heading out for a jog, may have returned to her boyfriend's house, and evidence reportedly suggested she was doing homework late on the night she disappeared. Family members told local CBS affiliate KCCI the new information on Saturday, but authorities did not give any new timeline in order not to hurt the search. She was last seen on July 18th running in Brooklyn, Iowa. She was staying at her boyfriend's home at the time of her disappearance. She was there to watch his dogs because he had a construction job about 100 miles northeast in Dubuque.
This is the story of a drug dog with a bounty on its head. Sombra, a 6-year-old German Shepherd, has helped Colombia's police detect more than 2,000 kilos of cocaine hidden in suitcases, boats, and large shipments of fruit. As the dog sniffs her way toward a record cocaine interdictions, she has also become the latest target of Colombia's most powerful drug gang. Colombian police recently revealed that the Gulf Clan, a cartel that boasts its own guerrilla army, has offered a reward of $7,000 to whoever kills or captures the savvy hound. The threat prompted officials to relocate Sombra, whose name in Spanish means shadow, from a busy port on Colombia's Caribbean coast to the capital city, where she now uses her extraordinary talent to sniff through suspicious cargo at Bogota's El Dorado International Airport. After her 6-hour shift is over, Sombra is transported in a van with tinted windows back to her kennel. She is usually accompanied by 2 armed guards. Sombra's detective work is needed now more than ever as Colombia wrestles with soaring cocoa production that is testing traditionally close relations with the United States. A recent White House report found the amount of land where peasants and drug traffickers harvest the plant used to make cocaine rose 11% in 2017 to 516,450 acres, despite $10 billion in U.S. counter-narcotics work, reported by the Associated Press.
From CNBC, it's not exactly pennies from heaven, but McDonald's is planning to make it rain coins to celebrate the Big Mac's 50th anniversary. Starting at the lunch rush on Thursday, customers can receive a Mac coin with the purchase of a Big Mac at 14,000 participating restaurants across the United States. McDonald's announced yesterday. And what's the coin good for? Another Big Mac. Customers can redeem the new currency for a free Big Mac starting Friday and running through the rest of 2018. In an interview with USA Today, McDonald's CEO Steve Easterbrook explained that Thursday was selected as the release date for the brass-colored coins because it would have been the 100th birthday of Jim Delegati, a McDonald's franchisee in Western Pennsylvania who invented the Big Mac. The coin idea sprung from the role that the Big Mac has played in measuring purchasing power.
Republican Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin says that the Trump administration's $12 billion bailout for American farmers hurt by tariffs would be a mess to implement, saying it's his responsibility to convey to constituents the harm caused by ongoing trade disputes, reported by CBS.
From USA Today, yet another fight over government funding is heating up. President Donald Trump indicated that he's willing to shut down the government if he doesn't secure funding for his long-sought wall on the Mexican border. Trump met in recent days with Republican leaders in Congress to work out a deal that would avoid a shutdown in the fall and postpone an immigration debate until after the November midterms. But Trump tweeted yesterday morning that he'd be willing to shut down government if the Democrats do not give us the votes for border security. The government has briefly shut down twice this year, once after a similar spending and immigration impasse, and again when Senator Rand Paul was concerned about spending increases.
A violin bought by a Massachusetts pawn shop for $50 has ended up being worth about 5,000 times that. Employees at the LBC Boutique and Loan in Somerville, Massachusetts, had no idea what he was buying when he paid for the Ferdinand Gagliano violin, which was handcrafted in 1759 and is worth $250,000. Store manager Dylan McDermott says the bows alone are worth $16,000 to $18,000. Police say the violin was stolen during a house break-in and has since been returned to its rightful owner. They say the seller had no criminal record and they're still investigating. McDermott says in the future, shop employees are going to ask people who bring in violins to play them so they know the instruments are theirs, reported by the Associated Press.
From the Reuters news agency, website is Reuters.com. The Bank of Japan ends a two-day meeting tomorrow. The Federal Reserve concludes its meeting on Wednesday, and the Bank of England is expected to raise interest rates on Thursday, a busy week which could set the near-term course for currencies. The euro bucked the quiet mood, reversing some of the losses that followed the European Central Bank's reaffirmation last week that rates would stay low through the summer of 2019. Those gains came despite slightly softer German inflation numbers and Eurozone sentiment data, and analysts said the euro's rebound was largely because traders felt it had been oversold last week.
Recent visitors to Wall Street to see the famous Charging Bull sculpture got a little something extra. On top of the statue sat a shirtless man wearing a mask of Russian President Vladimir Putin. The rest of the bull was covered with a rainbow-colored assortment of sex toys. A man named Jeff Jetton is taking credit for the prank, interpreted by some as a commentary on how Putin seems to be controlling the United States. Jetton said he agreed with that statement, but he wants to let people construe the prank as they see fit. He also said he used more than 130 dildos to decorate the bull, all of them donated by an adult entertainment company. Apparently, the Putin mask wasn't a good enough disguise. Jetton says he was contacted by the New York City Police Department on Tuesday. Jetton's quote, "I think it's for a non-criminal code violation. The officers were kind of laughing when they cited me," reported by the Huffington Post.
From NPR, UK cyclist Geraint Thomas crossed the Tour de France finish line on the Champs-Élysées yesterday to become the first Welshman to take the honor. Thomas, who is 32 years old, was wearing the yellow jersey of the overall leader, and he crossed the line arm in arm with teammate Chris Froome, last year's winner. Yesterday's ceremonial final stage came after Thomas's Saturday defense of a 1 minute 51 seconds lead over second-place finisher Tom Dumoulin. Four-time champion Froome placed third overall. According to Cycling News, after the customary champagne and photo opportunities during the first half of the stage, things, as they usually do, got serious once the peloton hit Paris. A six-man break got away early on the Champs-Élysées. How do you say it, Robin? Élysées circuits, but
Champs-Élysées.
Thank you. But with the sprinters teams keen to take the glory on the Tour's last day, they were hunted down with 4 miles to go.
A Vermont airport is displaying 7-foot-tall maple syrup jugs to remind travelers that they can buy the state staple online instead of losing it at security when their liquids get confiscated. Burlington International Airport celebrated the installation of the syrup jugs on Thursday. The jugs will be accompanied by 7-foot-long blocks of cheddar cheese. Dakin Farms and Cabot Creamery company sponsored the replicas, the companies are promoting a website on which people can have Vermont food shipped to their homes in the hopes fewer travelers will have their maple syrup taken by airport security for being larger than the maximum allotted 3 4/10 ounces. The replicas are not edible. An airport spokeswoman estimates that the 150-gallon jugs were filled with maple syrup inside, that they would be worth $10,500, reported by the Associated Press.
From USA Today, Jared Ramos, the man accused of killing 5 people at Maryland's Capital Gazette newspaper on June 28th, is scheduled to appear in court for the first time this morning. He's facing 23 charges, including 5 counts of murder for the deaths of Gerald Fishman, Rob Hyacinth, John McNamara, Rebecca Ann Smith, and Wendy Winters. Meanwhile, the Annapolis community honored the victims with a music festival this weekend, attended by U.S. senators and high-profile journalists.
Tech giants are meeting with the Trump administration to craft a federal policy. The goal of these meetings, which were first reported by Axios, is to come up with a data privacy proposal at the federal level that could serve as a blueprint for Congress to pass sweeping legislation in the mode of the European Union. There are currently no laws that govern how tech companies harness and monetize users' data. A total of 22 meetings with more than 80 companies have been held on this topic over the last month, reported by Fox.
From the Daily Beast, after years of planning, NASA is finally launching a new effort to send astronauts back to the moon and then onward to Mars. The space agency is developing a new capsule spacecraft, a super heavy rocket to boost the capsule into space, and a moon orbiting station that, if it deploys on schedule in the mid-2020s, could serve as humanity's main way station for ever longer missions farther into the solar system. But one important piece of technology is missing: a new spacesuit. 53 years after astronaut Ed White stepped outside of his Gemini 4 capsule on the first ever spacewalk for an American, NASA is stuck using decades-old suits that critics say are too old, too bulky, too rigid, and too few in number for America's new era of space exploration.
Remedios Rojas was walking down a Mexico City street on Saturday when she saw 7 tutu-clad dancers tiptoe to the sidewalk, their chins held high, and joined pedestrians waiting to cross the road. When the light changed, music started, and the dancers leapt into the street, twirling and twisting in front of surprised drivers. The 58-second show, the duration of a Mexico City traffic light, is part of a theater company's attempt to brighten the days of motorists at snarled intersections in the sprawling megalopolis notorious for its clogged roadways. Rojas ran home and brought back her 2 grandchildren to enjoy the street performances, which featured music ranging from ballet classics like Swan Lake and the Nutcracker to Michael Jackson's Rock With Me. The sound system was a boombox plugged into an iPod. The idea of the performances was inspired by photographer Oscar Rodriguez, who captured portraits of the dancers in the streets. The performances are part of an initiative called the Theatricality of Public Space. The theater company is called Ardentia, reported by the Associated Press.
From USA Today, today is National Cheesecake Day. Diners can snag a half-price slice of cheesecake at any cheesecake factory at their 198 U.S. locations, with a limit of 1 discounted slice per guest. The company is also celebrating by rolling out 2 brand new cheesecakes: Cinnabon Cinnamon Swirl Cheesecake and Very Cherry Ghirardelli Chocolate Cheesecake.
Top officials with the donor network Koch Group, affiliated with billionaire industrialist Charles Koch, this weekend sought to distance the network from the Republican Party and President Trump. They cited tariff and immigration policies and divisive rhetoric out of Washington. At a gathering of hundreds of donors at the Broodmoor Resort, officials reiterated their plans to spend as much as $400 million on policy issues and political campaigns during the 2018 cycle, reported by the Washington Post.
From Spectrum News 13, the Marion County Sheriff's Office is investigating a robbery that occurred at the Dollar General store located in Marion Oaks. Investigators say the suspects, described as a black man and a black woman, walked into the store around 7:20 yesterday evening. That's when they went to the register, showed the clerk a gun, and demanded money from the register. The suspects then left the store on foot. The amount of money was that was taken is still unknown.
President Donald Trump's national security advisor, John Bolton, says that any meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin should be put off until 2019 because of special counsel Robert Mueller's witch hunt, reported by NBC.
From NPR.org. Was it hard to concentrate during that long meeting, or does the crossword seem a little tougher? You could be mildly dehydrated. A growing body of evidence finds that being just a little dehydrated is tied to a range of subtle effects, from mood changes to muddled thinking. We find that when people are mildly dehydrated, they really don't do as well on tasks that require complex processing or on tasks that require a lot of their attention, according to a statement from Mindy Millard-Stafford, director of the Exercise Physiology Laboratory at Georgia Institute of Technology. She published an analysis of the evidence this month based on 33 studies.
President Donald Trump took to social media on Friday to lash out at his former longtime personal lawyer, Michael Cohen, denying that he knew in advance about a now infamous meeting at Trump Tower 2 years ago. Reports surfaced that Cohen claimed that he did. Multiple sources have confirmed that Cohen claims then presidential Trump knew about the June 2016 meeting with Russians at the Trump Tower in New York City, reported by Yahoo.
From CNN.com, children's exposure to alcohol through breast milk may cause a comparable drop in their cognitive abilities, according to a study published this morning in the journal Pediatrics. This is the first study in which associations between alcohol exposure through breast milk and cognition in children are examined, the researchers from Macquarie University in Australia wrote in the report. The authors obtained data from a longitudinal study, a continuous study of data over a period of time of 5,107 infants from Australia who were recruited in 2004 and evaluated every 2 years until the age of 11. Their mothers were asked about their alcohol consumption from a modified questionnaire used by the World Health Organization.
President Donald Trump fired off a series of tweets yesterday, lashing out at the special counsel investigation led by former FBI Director Robert Mueller. In the tweets, Trump largely resurfaced previous issues he has with the investigation. He claims Mueller personally has conflicts of interest, reported by CNN.
And that's all the time we have for News Bites. We need to move forward. Got a busy morning this morning. Nice looking Monday out there, by the way. How many stories today?
32.
We'll be right back. This is The Source, WOCA Ocala.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. 7 people still missing, 6 dead, including 2 firefighters in Northern California wildfires, which have burned up hundreds of homes and buildings.
This fire is scary to us. This is something we haven't seen before in the city.
Redding, California Police Chief Roger Moore, whose own home was one of the 874 burned up there.
In all, about 200